this book, there's a long poem to Frederick Law Olmsted, the designer and architect of Central Park. And he also left the work on Central Park in 1860, late 61, to go and supervise what became the Red Cross, the Sanitary Commission, to gather the wounded off the battlefields of the Civil War, the northern battlefields of the Civil War, the Union wounded and dead. And I won't read the whole poem, but just what I want you to try to see is Central Park in Manhattan used to be a slaughterhouse and running with the blood of slain animals, and Olmsted went from the blood muck of Central Park that was becoming a park to the blood muck of the battlefields of the Civil War, and the whole poem is about designing a democracy. The idea of Central Park was to make a public space where everyone could go and be ennobled by the idea of public space. And the Civil War was a battle to make a democracy that was inclusive of everybody and that would abolish slavery. I'll read the first section and the last section, hoping not to tax your patience too much. Olmsted loved the philosopher Emerson, and each of my sections has a little quote from Emerson. He kept a copy of Emerson's essays by his bed. The poem is called Earthworks for Frederick Law Olmsted. The first section is Shadows. The way of life is wonderful. It is by abandonment. Emerson. Against icy morning light, the sycamores flex biceps, shrug shoulders, flaunt broad arms, serpent-mottled. Hurrah, they shout, or help, or pour down more sun. Disease bunches up in bowls under the skin and cranks the elbows. Malady, we were taught, is picturesque. Hollow trunk, dead arm, drooping bough, wrote Mr. Gilpin, splendid remnants of decaying grandeur. And other mischiefs incident to trees. They fling their shadows wide as archaic pitchforks, prong frozen soil to dislodge 5 million ghostly cubic yards of stone, earth, topsoil hauled to make a park, the Central Park. The central idea that all, ward healers, dandies, urchins, freed slaves, desperados, gents and ladies, the halt, the swift, the lame, might come, might be drawn forth in courtesy, might harmonize. Democracy is space in which we flow. The shadows strike back to the house in Hartford, curtains drawn in daylight around the mother's sunken quilts, no longer breathing in the laudanum gloom, and the small boy hardly breathing by the bed. Roots boil up in dragon coils from rock-hard earth. Elm, Norway maple, pin oak, honey locust, hickory, clutch and bunch secrets wrenched from below, where the mother lies in metamorphic dark. Bedrock, mica schist at the core, littered above with clay and gravel, gouged by glacier, shot with granite dikes where magma probed and cooled. No account kept of expenses from February 24 to March 12, wrote Father, the merchant. Tuesday, February 28, at 5:30 p.m., my dear wife died. And next April, married, $10. The shadows press child after child into the shale pages of the Book of Earth. Charlotte, measles, aged 4. Owen, aged 2. Ada, age 6 of bilious colic. Her moans and cries have been heart-rending, writes young Fred, anthologist of shadows. The great principle of art, breadth of light and shadows, counsels Sir Uvedale Price, for whom the eye should not be stopped and harassed by little disunited, discordant parts. Nor is democracy little discordant parts. Rhododendron, azalea, rhodora, sweet gum, spice bush, green ash, Siberian elm. The essence, says Price, is connection, Olmsted and Vaux loop tableland and meadow, hill, hollow, rock, reservoir, lake and brook, east, west, north, south, above, below, in paths, roads, drives, and bridges cresting. Build in solidest granite that the span may loft across the death of Brother John, ghostwriter, confidant, comrade, closest soul, choked by tuberculosis far in southern France. Dear, dear Fred, it appears we are not to see one another anymore. I am wild with opium. I cannot comprehend this suddenness, but I see it. I have no breath. Don't let Mary suffer while you are alive. Price. Twilight connects what was before scattered. It fills up staring, meager vacancies. It destroys edginess, and by shadow as well as light to water, it increases its brilliance and softness. Evening dissolves opal and mother of pearl across the reservoir, silences commissioners, bosses, office seekers, first citizens, journalists, bankers. Small waves lisp and suck at the rim of blue ice. The widgeon tucks an emerald cheek under his wing and drifts toward sleep as shade encumbers the elms. The widgeon is a kind of duck. I'm going to skip to the short last one. What I hope when you walk in Central Park now, you'll think about Olmsted and think about the man who had us all in mind as he built this incredible public space, and that it's precious, a gracious and noble public space that's for everyone. Hollows. Free to draw his own conclusions and to stroll among hawthorn, persimmon, and spindle trees in the ramble, he designed in order to lose himself, so that others might lose themselves, might be weaned from debasing pursuits and brutalizing pleasures. He meanders off hours, free for a spell from drafting table memoranda and orders for new parks, free from his father's gentle dying, from Tammany commissioners and the spoils of the park. He kicks through folios of fallen leaves and their whispered obituaries. Where the path dips, it might be Avernus, that hulking shade, Lincoln, whose frankness and courageous directness he'd finally seen. That tremor by the ash tree, that rustle in the underbrush, Owen, his son, dead at 24. A chill in the air, an iron taste, an early dusk as boughs strip down. Pages flutter to earth, his thousands of joyless, laborious sheets, lines spaced far apart for his interlinear corrections and corrections of corrections, until the space between the lines, the margins, and even the back of the page are crowded with his crabbed and hasty script. Neuralgia, insomnia, his impracticable temper and irritable brain never followed straight lines. The clubs, Century, Union League, Saturday Club, the Nation Editorial Board, sift into compost. The granite ledge presses moist into his palm. Spine of the park, a rock with its own constitution, its own amendments, it lends itself only partly to his designs. His work everywhere arrested, wrenched, mangled, and misused, a mortification. Branches lopped, roads rammed through, meadows, and that excessive materialism of purpose in which we as a people are so cursedly absorbed, absorbs park after park, Brooklyn, Boston, Buffalo. He stands in shade, the sociable man beyond society, where the brain puckers in gulches and hollows and solitude is perfected. He made a shape for the errant soul, the hidden life, the refugee, a reverie beyond the touch of wife, son, nephew, fame, doctors, the firm's future, beyond the gaze of the painter who sees him as white-bearded, benevolent sage of capitalist rhododendrons, dementia has its own genius. He essays a path into the rock's deep crevices and disappears. He barely disturbs the litter of leaves. We should not know him, but as our season darkens, we still walk in the privacy he traced for us, and the sycamores ravel a canopy of cloud with knowing fingers over our heads.